Welcome to our webinar on how to run your own FaceTime a Farmer session. This session is specifically for teachers and those in education. If you're a farmer, then there's a separate webinar for you. My name's Farmer Tom.
And I'm Olivia Mellor, and I am a teacher here at Harbour Primary School.
And for the last year, we've been piloting our FaceTime a Farmer scheme, and we thought it would be a really useful and exciting and relatively simple way to bring the farm into the classroom. And it's been even easier than I thought.
I was going to say, it was exactly all of those things. All of them and more.
Brilliant. Do you want to take us through some of your step-by-step guide?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to run through some tips, things that you need to do, and then we're going to give you a list of do's and don'ts, some kind of crucial advice if you're thinking about this for your school. I think, starting from the beginning, it's really important that your school has a Skype account or some sort of access to a video messaging service. We've got an IT guy who is incredible and who has been so helpful in setting us up with a Skype account, which has made it really easy for us to communicate. He's there and ready if anything goes wrong as well. So setting up a school account, I think that's the first thing that you need to do. Secondly, as a teacher, establishing the prior knowledge that your pupils have got is really important. What do they want to know about farming? What existing knowledge have they got? What do they already know? And what are they hoping to gain from the sessions? We did lots of mind mapping questions, lots of working out what they wanted to find out, and that was really useful having done that preparation first.
I think also as a farmer, it's really useful to hear what kind of level of understanding the children are at as well.
Yeah.
We could be doing FaceTime a Farmer, in our case 200 miles apart, or it could be 800 miles apart. So you may not know the town or the area, and certainly you won't know the children. So just understanding what kind of level they're at is really useful for farmers.
Yeah, absolutely. To make the most of every session and to make them really valuable, it's really important that you establish a focus for each one. So you need to think about what curriculum area you're focusing on at the minute and try and link your sessions to that. We did all sorts of links, cross-curricular links, didn't we? We were doing science, we were doing evolution and inheritance, we were doing kind of DT and machinery and things like that. And actually it was really interesting, things that you thought couldn't possibly be linked to farming worked really well.
Yeah.
So having a link and a theme before you start the session is really useful. That way the children can ask questions that are linked to that as well. And it's all really meaty, important information that they're getting from it. We also thought about any topical or current debates that are in the media. So we did a lot of debates on supermarkets versus farmers markets, which got some great writing out for the children, and why it's important to source your food locally versus international food distribution. So for us, the value in that came from some incredibly sophisticated and really interesting bits of writing.
And I think for me as well, that came across in some really interesting and engaging questions. So they were really full of questions from what they'd learned. They wanted to know more, but also how does that work on the farm? And what do you think, Farmer Tom? I thought that was really, really useful.
Well, you were their primary source of research.
Yeah.
So, forget looking in a book or looking on the internet. To have you there with your knowledge for them to be able to question you is the best way that they could possibly learn, so it's really useful. It was really important as well that we thought about when our sessions were going to take place. Were they going to be used at the beginning of a topic? Were they going to be used as research for something that the children were going to be learning about? It's so engaging and so interactive that to make the most of it, you had to think about what time you were going to do it. Having it at a time when children were restless and fidgety probably is not going to be wise, because you want to keep them engaged and want to keep them interested and just make the most of the sessions. Ground rules and establishing ground rules, they're just general things like calling out and listening really well. We always just ran through that first. And testing equipment. You found this useful as well, didn't you?
Really useful just to have a test call or even 2 test calls. I think our first test call, our learning curve was like this. We were learning about getting the sound right or making sure we had the right Skype account and all the things that you don't want to be doing with the children there, but also making me feel a lot more comfortable and confident, and probably you as well, I think.
I think just checking that the whiteboard's working, the microphone's on, everything's running smoothly, it's going to minimise any panics, as well as all the important stuff that goes on before a session, I think after a session, a lot of good stuff goes on. So it's giving the children time to reflect on what they've learned. And actually, it was incredible seeing how much they'd retained and how much they'd remembered from previous sessions. So lots of discussion, lots of debate, what kind of subjects were raised, what did they find interesting. And again, just constantly linking it to the curriculum and what we were learning at the time. So always recapping on what had gone on.
Yeah, I was really impressed. In subsequent weeks, they would remember what had gone on in the previous sessions. And I guess that's because, some people are visual learners and they'd seen what they've been learning about in the fields, but they really retained it well. And the questions were, the other week when you said this, or when you had your sheep, or when you were doing this, it was really interesting and relevant.
Yeah, and because we were doing it regularly, they did build up a relationship with you. You did remember their names. They did learn about the dog and the lambs, and there was that continuity and that relationship that was really, really a good thing.
And that's the value about a weekly or a fortnightly or a monthly call versus maybe a once a year school visit. Is actually, instead of having my farm in a snapshot, you're seeing lambs being born and growing, you're seeing crops being planted and raised and tended and harvested.
It was a live process.
Yeah.
And they saw it change through the seasons as well.
Yeah.
So we started in the spring and went through to the winter, and it all just kind of happened, and they were there almost.
Yeah.
It was really brilliant.
And that's what I love as a farmer, so it's really good to be able to communicate, to actually get that across, rather than, a one-day farm visit with everything that's associated with that.
Yeah, and for children that have got limited experiences of being on farms or knowing what goes on, this is just such a valuable thing, because it is, like I said, the next best thing for them.
And I think you'd say probably that some of your children have very limited experience of being on a farm.
Yeah, some of them have never been on a farm. Never seen a cow up close, never seen a pig up close, which you find quite hard to believe, but unfortunately that is the case. So here they can see it, and they see it puts things that they don't understand into a context that they can relate to.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that they were starting to reinterpret what they saw from the window, so they can see in the distance a farmer's field. What's in that? It's a yellow crop, and all of a sudden that kind of natural inquisitive nature came out. It was really great to see that.
Should we go through some do's and don'ts?
Let's do that.
Okay, so do's and don'ts for teachers. We spent quite a lot of time chatting beforehand, didn't we? And just building up a rapport between us. Chatting to the farmer and making sure that your expectations are the same is going to be really useful. Like I said before, making sure that the sessions take place when the children are going to be receptive to the learning is useful. Just before lunchtime, when they're fidgety and hungry, might not be the best idea. And
I think there was one session that we had when you said the children it's really hot today, the children have been outside, and they may not be quite so attentive, and so we changed the session and we did a guess what this bit of machinery does in the farmyard, which was a lot easier and a lot more low key. So that was really useful to have that information in advance as well.
Yeah. Another do, taking time to decide on a focus and a theme, generating the questions first so everything's well prepared and you're really getting the value from it. Again, spending the time to reflect on each session afterwards, consolidating the learning, and for the children that might have missed any information, just bringing it all together. The cross-curricular values I just think are incredible. So thinking about subjects that you might not immediately connect with farming, finding some links there. I tried where possible as well to think about interests that my children had shown, and one child who was really into tractors and machinery, so guiding a session towards that and just making it relevant to the children. Have they got a school that they can FaceTime in their local area? Can they think about their own family shopping habits? And then lastly, experimenting with creative ways to record the learning. We did lots of drama, lots of drawing, lots of art, lots of mind maps, lots of discussion. So again, keeping them engaged as much as possible. Yeah,
and I think that kind of led on. I could really tell between the sessions there's been a lot of work done. So they were talking about looking for a red tractor mark in the supermarket, or they were looking at the world around them and their learning and starting to relate it to that. So it was that kind of web of learning, that kind of reinforced learning.
At home and in school.
Yeah, so that was really useful.
Okay, don't attempt a session without a test call. We all know the importance of this.
So important.
Technology can be temperamental, and it was on a couple of occasions, wasn't it? We got through it. not assuming that the children are familiar with some of the technical language. So I would always spend some time pre-teaching some vocabulary, giving the children exposure to some words that I thought might come up, just so they had that familiarity with it.
Yeah, and as a farmer, I was trying to make sure that I wasn't using words that are really familiar to me, referring to some intricate part of farm life, but actually to the typical person who isn't involved in farming that have no idea. So I was trying to keep my language at an appropriate level as well.
Try not to, where possible, overtake a session. It's kind of nice just to act as a facilitator, and actually I did very little. It was more that interaction between you and the children, and they led it with their questions and what they wanted to find out. So I tried to take a step back and just let it run naturally, which I think was the best course of action.
And it did. It really felt like a free-flowing conversation. And I know you had some questions prepared, but often we'd talk about something and you'd say, "Oh, well, Isabel, I think that probably leads on to your question." So, so that was really it was a flowing conversation rather than an awkward engineered series of questions.
Yeah.
Great.
And finally, don't keep all this valuable learning to yourself. Get it in the newsletter, get it in assemblies, and share it with the wider school community, because it's such a brilliant thing.
So we've had a really, really exciting year. We thought it would be good, and it was actually great. It's been great for me as a farmer and really fascinating. I've been really proud to show the farm off and what we do on the farm, but it's been really good to see the interest from the children and been useful in the classroom.
Absolutely, 100%. The children learn so much. They learn valuable things that they would never experience before.
Brilliant.
It's great.
So if you're looking to run FaceTime a Farmer, we'd just say, go for it, be enthusiastic,
Do it.
Do a test call, and good luck.